But my name is Tom Nardone, and in 1998 I started an internet company. And aside from the mowing and the pumpkin thing, it is really what I do. I mean, I mow parks once every couple weeks in the summertime. I carve pumpkins for like 1 week a year. But my day-to-day bread and butter, and the reason I'm here is because I run this company. The company's called PriveCo, which is shortening of private and company. And what we try to do is we try to find embarrassing items, things that are embarrassing to buy face-to-face, and we sell them online in some way. And we've been doing that for a long time. So what I'm going to talk to you today about is how I started that company a little bit, what the keys to the successful sort of startup and launch were, in my beliefs, you know. We're going to talk about my experiences, good and bad, in that process, and I will leave you with 3 things that that worked for me. My personal experiences, I'll call them tips. I'm not going to tell you to do them, but I'm just going to tell you from my personal experience. I've learned that when you give speeches like this, try not to say you should, you should, you should. And I'm not going to do that tonight. That does not make for a great speech. I'm going to tell you, I did this, and this is what happened. I did this, and this is what happened. So I'm not here to toot my own horn. I don't care if you go home at night tonight and shop at vibrators.com, which is one of our websites. If you don't, there's plenty of people that will, right? So let's just agree that this exchange between us is going to be about openness and honesty. I'm going to be very honest with you about how these things work and what's worked. So I think since you don't know me and I don't know you, I've tried to learn a little bit about you guys by visiting the website and the Facebook page. I've seen a couple of videos. So I'm going to ask a few questions. Jeremy already got the 5 deal question out of the way, which I like. So we're going to do the show of hands things, and I'm going to ask probably like 8 questions. So who here is interested primarily in residential property? Okay. I tried to raise my hand, but I'm not interested in residential. How about commercial property? Commercial property. So mostly residential. Do you guys own commercial property, or are you just interested in it? No? Okay. I own commercial property, but not by choice, only because I got stuck with one. So I own 2. The one my business is in, and the one my business used to be in. So that we outgrew. But I never. As far as residential properties, multi-tenant or single tenant? How about single tenant? And multi-tenant? Okay, and then the only other thing I think I don't really, I have a couple more. One is I don't understand, like, is it most people's, the question is kind of an either or, but you can raise your hand twice, which is, do you buy them to make a profit on the sale, or do you buy them to make a profit on, like, the rent? So buy to make a profit on the sale, buy to make a profit on the rent. Everybody's sort of a both type, right? Okay, all right. And then last one, I think. We'll see. During the thing, I'll think of another. But do you take in outside investor dollars, or do you use your own? So outside investors involved, raise your hand. Okay, and then solely go flying solo. Flying solo, a couple people flying solo. Okay, interesting. All right, that's good. So I can try. It's going to be hard for me to relate my business to your business, but I think we can find some real parallels here. So let's. You can look at your sheet if you really want to. But in 1998, I started a company with. I had $10,000 in savings. I was actually saving to buy something cool, but I just, it was just money. I was I had a job. I worked at Ford Motor Company. I had been an engineer, but I had gotten promoted into a job where I wrote business plans. I'm the son of 2 entrepreneurs. My dad owned a liquor store. My mom owned a couple of ice cream stores. So between the 3 of us, we've got almost all of the vices covered. My grandmother was a bookie, though. So between all of those, we figured out how to make money off of people's bad habits. Next thing I had to do is buy a tobacco farm. So I had $10,000, and I ended up launching this website. The website that I first launched, and one that I think is the most unique of anything we run, is called shopinprivate.com. And it's the name is a call to action that you're given the ability to shop in private, and you can find the weirdest products there. You can find pads you put under your underarms, so if you're sweating, it doesn't show. You can find creams that will lighten your nipples in case you're dissatisfied with the color. You can find anal itching creams, and you can find sex toys, and you can find filters that make it so your farts don't stink. There's like everything. There's like everything. In fact, our job at the company, it's a weird place to work, as you might imagine. Or you maybe even never even thought of it, but you can imagine working at this company. But our job is to go out and find these products. And a lot of times it's like one guy who invented this thing and he had 1,000 of them made in China. And like literally he has zero chance of selling all 1,000 if we don't sell it, because nowhere is going to carry it. So it's a fun business. It's got all sorts of weird things. But I think right now it has about 1,500 items on it. And probably half of them you'll find in a drugstore. 25% of them you'd find in an adult store, and 25% you'll never see anywhere else. So it's a lot of fun to run. And but let's go down to where it says interesting discussions. Oh no, first I'm going to summarize all the things I can tell you. So Shop in Private was my first launch. Then later, what happened, we had this great Valentine's Day because we're selling all this sexy stuff. And I hired a warehouse manager from a distributor of sexy things. And March hit, and literally, business ground to a halt. And we're like, oh my gosh. So I said, Pam, what sells over at where you came from? This is my competitive analysis. What sells over there in March? And she says, oh, they have the bachelorette party season starts. Oh, okay. Well, the internet was still fairly new. So I bought the name Bachelorette Parties for $1,500 from this guy. And I launched a website, and it did pretty well. And within 6 months, I agreed to buy the name Bachelorette.com, which I thought was the name. And I paid, the deal was $64,000, and I had to pay the guy in installments. I gave him, I think, $5,000 down and $1,500 a month for a certain period of time. So that was phase 2. I didn't even think of it that way. I just how can I sell more stuff? Then in 2004, we decided that since what we were doing was working, we're really private. We don't share customers' information. We ship it all ourselves. We don't email or send catalogs or anything like that. So there's some difference between what my company does and what other companies that sell the items that we sell. So we really like that. And what we decided to do was we decided to go after a couple of big fish. And one of which was a guy who owned the name Vibrators.com, and he owned 100 domain names, and he was already extremely wealthy. And we decided that he was in the industrial vibratory equipment business, which is machines that shake parts to deburr them or sort them. And we knew, and he knew, that the calls to his office were not the calls that he was interested in. But he also knew that with his wealth and his stature, that he couldn't take on a business of that nature, with that product. So we pitched him hard as we're the most private business in the world. We are the only people in this industry that do this, and this, and we'll give you. He was about to sign a deal with another company that was going to pay him more, but we offered him less money with less liability, and he took the deal. And so then we had a gentleman's handshake. He flew up in his private jet to come meet with us in person, and I'm not sure he was so impressed, but but he was nice and friendly, and I brought him to my house and cooked dinner and that sort of thing with my wife, and he liked my wife, and so we had a handshake deal. We had a purchase, and this is the rare case I've heard in business where we had an agreement, a buyout agreement, and it was a handshake deal, nothing more. And I would never recommend that to people, but we had a deal that when we could pay $1 million for the name, that he would sell it to us. And so we bought it in 2008, $200,000 down, 5 years to pay, 8% interest. My monthly mortgage payment on this loan, $16,221.22. I write a check for every month. Man, that is one hell of a payment. I cannot wait. I have 15 more payments to make. And at that point, I will take home $16,221.22 more a month than I do right now. Sweet. So I'm looking forward to that. But we did purchase that. It was a good decision. It wasn't an unbelievably great decision. It was $1 million investment, but it was a good decision. The website has always made the cash to pay its own loan. And that was sort of that. There was a deciding point there, and I needed help from friends to decide when to pull the trigger. Jeremy wanted me to talk about buying internet companies. So in 2011, we bought another company. It was a competitor called Libida.com. We've never raised any outside investment, but Libida.com had raised $1.4 million, and they burned through it in the dot-com bubble. And in 2011, they were like a shell of a company, and we came in and snatched them up for basically nothing. But I did go out to San Francisco, and I picked up this company and packed it all in boxes essentially and moved it out. It was a very strange experience. I'll probably never do that again. Maybe again if the deal is good. As of right now, our sales are $4.5 million a year. I gave the number to Jeremy and he got it right. I'm surprised. We've had 750,000 customers, and we do operate 10 retail websites, but the big three are shopinprivate.com, bachelorette.com, and vibrators.com. All right, so let's go back to 1998, and I can tell you a little bit more about my company. So it's hard to remember 13, 14 years ago, but I can guarantee you that no more than 1 or 2 people in this room had internet access in 1998. Now everybody's gonna say, oh, I did, I totally did. But I gotta tell you, it was purely the realm of hardcore nerds.
Well, it sucked. It was so slow.
Dial-up.
Oh yeah, no, this was beyond dial-up, because in 1998 there were no advertisements for where you would dial up to, right? There was no company. There was no AOL discs in the mail. That was like probably 1999, 2000. There was just, you had to know someone who knows someone who was starting, an ISP. And I knew somebody. In fact, I knew someone that was really good at it, and I was a Mac user at the time. And that was like, there was a piece of technology, this Mac, that made getting online a little easier. So that eased the pain. Also at the time, well, when I was on there, I wasn't surprised or disinterested to find that people were doing things online that they would never do in person. They were looking at pornography, which, imagine that, a bunch of nerds who look at porn, right? They were doing embarrassing things. They were having like chat room. There was no pictures really on the internet. It was almost entirely text. Like if you saw a picture, it was a naked girl pretty much. Or, because people didn't have scanners. The cameras we had were like 100 pixels by 100 pixels, which would be smaller than a thumbnail now. So people were having these chat room love affairs. There were chat rooms, like everyone could see the conversation. There was no instant message. It wasn't between 2 people. It was in public. And they were having these like chat room love affairs, and you're texting to people. I mean, I like to write and I like chicks, so I was on there. And you're wondering to yourself, this is a dude. This has got to be. This is such a dude. There's like this. I'm talking to a guy, so I quickly sort of came to the realization that, man, people are doing things here between the looking at porn and the cross-dressing, right? The virtual cross-dressing and all that. And another thing, people would insult people that they would never do in person. You're a jerk. You're an idiot. And people, they still do that today. They still do all these things today. And I thought to myself, that's an interesting thing. This technology is creating this interesting behavior. And I also was reading a book. I was a product planner. I took a job as a product planner at Ford. And this website, Amazon.com, had launched, right? And the way that they launched Amazon.com was, this guy, Jeff Bezos, he came up with the idea that he was going to sell something online. And he decided what to sell by what product had the most complete database available. He didn't want to have to type in the description of the thing, the UPC code, or any of that sort of stuff. He also wanted an industry where you could order one at a time, right? You could buy things one at a time as long as you ordered enough stuff. And he found that in the book business, because the ISBN numbers on the back of a book, there's a database that has been for years that the libraries have been using, the Library of Congress uses, to describe what's in the book. There's a summary of the work, there's keywords in there, there's like all the stuff you would need to build a website to list all this stuff. And he also found out that book retailers, kind of an independent bunch, have the ability to order. They can say, give me one Harry Potter, give me one of this, one of this, one of this, and then they place their order with their distributor, and it comes, a few days later. So he's like, perfect industry. I'm going to start an online bookstore, and he did. And I was excited about it. I read about it in Wired magazine or something, and I went on the website and I typed in product planning because that's what I was doing for a living, and I liked it. And there were no pictures of the book back then. This is how old school this was. But there were descriptions, and there was this book called What Were They Thinking? And it was about failed products, product failures. And the guy who wrote it actually was in Buffalo at the time, but now he's out at U of M. His name's Robert McMaster. It's a very fun book to read. It's called What Were They Thinking? It's a little old now. Maybe he's done a revised edition. And it's great. It talks about like Crystal Pepsi and like all these really awful products. Like vegetarian dog foods at the time, you know. Now I think it's more successful, but at the time there was a shampoo that had yogurt in it. And it's like, what? Like, you know, it's like so-and-so shampoo with yogurt. And it's like, what, huh? How's that related? Like, what's that gonna do for me, you know? And then there were all these other products. And it was a fun read. I really enjoyed reading it. One of my favorite products, I'm an engineer, so engineers see things a little differently. It was this microwavable ice cream sundae. Who's any engineers in the room? I can see suspenders over here. Suspenders sundae, right? No, I understand how it works. He like said, I need to hold my pants up today. I got belt or suspenders. Perfectly acceptable choice, suspenders. The rest of us, society wants us to wear a belt, we're wearing a belt. He's like, these are easy to take off. I just thought about, you know. So anyway, so I'm sorry, Daniel, right? Yeah. All right, Daniel. Here's this idea. You tell me if this will work or not. It was a microwavable ice cream sundae, and what they did was they found out how it was hot fudge sundae. They found out how the microwave would act upon this thing, and they knew that the microwave would heat up like the top outside or something of it before it got to the core. Right? Yep. So they put the hot fudge on the outside and then the ice cream in the core. So if you microwaved it the right amount, when you popped off the top, you'd have hot fudge sundae. Make sense to you?
Perfect sense.
Makes sense to me.
Me too.
But this is you know what the problem here is? The problem is convincing a person to put ice cream into an oven doesn't work. Like they think, well, I'll just eat it the way it is. But then they pop off the top, and they get a rock hard hot fudge barrier to eating their ice cream, and it just didn't. People wouldn't even buy it. Like didn't. So there's hundreds of examples of this. So so I love this book. Still have it. I think I have a copy in my car. And there was a small part in the book about embarrassment and what it did to people. And he used two examples. Some people in the room are old enough to remember a couple of them. One it said you can never make money with a I'm a loser product. And this is a product that, like, in order to buy it, you have to admit something's wrong with you. And their example for that was, they were both two shampoo examples. One was called For Oily Hair Only. And I think they had a tagline. Does anyone remember what it is? Oh, there were two. For Oily Hair Only, and another one called Agree. And they were both for oily hair. And Agree's tagline was "Escape the Greasies," like greasy hair. And for oily hair only, didn't have a tagline. It said "For oily hair only" on it. And they both ran these commercials about how terribly it was to have oily hair. Terrible it was. So, which, you know, you can motivate people by telling them something about them is terrible, and then they will go try to solve it. You know. It works time and time again in any cosmetic product, and the next example will prove it out. But the fact of bringing the For Oily Hair Only and putting it on the cash register, and her telling me that'll be $9 for your For Oily Hair Only shampoo. How's the greasies treating you? You know, that made for product failures, and these were like Procter and Gamble products that had passed. You know, they passed muster. Yeah. They passed muster through all of the customer research, through all of the things. They'd shown the commercials to people, and the people liked the commercials. They had catchy jingles, but they forgot to include that last chunk, the putting it on the point of sale, the face-to-face, the admission of, I'm a loser, I need this product. And that's what we call it, I'm a loser marketing. The successful product, though, on the other hand, was, there was a commercial, Guy's in an elevator. This is the 70s, so he's got his like corduroy suit or whatever. And a woman walks in. She looks a lot like Farrah Fawcett. And Farrah Fawcett at the time was all that. The blondes, you know. And he goes, you hear his thoughts, and he goes, whoa, what a looker, you know. And then all of a sudden the girl goes, and he's looking down at her, and he goes, oh, she's got dandruff. And then they go, got dandruff? Head and Shoulders, right? And that commercial caused dandruff shampoos to go from 3% of the market of shampoos, 3% of all shampoos were dandruff shampoos to 30%. Just that one spot. And this was an instance where they allowed you to save them. They were telling you to save embarrassment. That sure, you might have to admit that you had dandruff to buy the shampoo, but it was embarrassing to have dandruff. Before then, dandruff was just something people had. There's a few flakes in the shoulder. But before that commercial, they convinced everybody in America, or the world, that dandruff was bad. Think about tooth whitening, right? Like 15 years ago, did anyone whiten their teeth? No. I mean, you might go to the dentist to make sure they're clean, but I mean, these people on TV, man, they're like got so much tooth whitening going on that it's like radiant, and they've basically convinced us all that we should have white teeth, and these are motivators that motivate us. So anyway, that's my favorite book, and this is so somewhere in my head these three ideas swirled. People were doing embarrassing things on the internet. You could buy things on the internet through Amazon, like a website like Amazon.com. And embarrassment is a motivator for retail something. Money. People will spend money somehow to avoid embarrassment. So I put those three things together, and I was writing business plans at the time, and I said, I'm going to write a business plan. This is it. The idea is I'm going to start an online store that sells only things that are embarrassing to buy. And I happened to have the good fortune of being surrounded by smart people at Ford and friends, and these were people that would be very, very honest with me. Because as the son of two entrepreneurs, this was definitely not my first business plan. Like I had written tons of them. And, or just business ideas, and I had run them by friends. And I had learned that there's a value. And you guys probably, this is a lesson I learned that would pay in the real estate business. Because you could bring, I'm sorry, your name is?
Connell.
Connell, I'm guessing you seem like a nice guy, you probably have a lot of friends, right? And say there's a property you're looking at and it's in, you know, I don't know, Telegraph at 6 Mile area, right? And it's, you know, it's for sale, whatever, it's some price. If you drove all, say 30 different friends by this house, right? And asked them, do you think I should buy it? Do you think I should buy it? They'll all give you an answer, right? But then take, and say maybe it's a wishy-washy house, you know, you don't know what to do. So you take 30 friends and 17 say buy it, 13 say don't buy it. Right? Okay. The trick is bring those same 30 friends, buy a really terrible house, right? And then ask them all if you should buy it. And I bet you instead of 17, 13, it's not going to be 30 and 0, right? Some of your friends are going to say, yeah, you should buy it. You should buy it. You can get rich on real estate. Or, Connell, you always make great decisions. You'll do whatever it takes to make money, right? So, and over the years with my penchant for coming up with really bad business ideas, I had learned which of my friends told me the truth, and which of my friends cheered me, and which of my friends wouldn't like even the best idea. And that was very important data for me, because you just can't take like a survey of things. You have to realize who the smart are and the dumb. And we'll talk about, you know, sorry. But I'm going to talk about, I have a background in business planning. I'm a firm believer in the business plan process, so I'm going to bore you with what a business plan is, what it covers. It may apply to your real estate business. Certainly it should in some way, because all 8 steps cover something. So anyway, I wrote the business plan, and as I was writing it, I was asking friends for advice. And this is the business. I can't say everybody liked it, because never, right? You got the uncle that's a cynic. My best friend's a cynic. He's never liked any idea I've had. Oh, $1 million, that's too much, you know? Or people aren't going to buy stuff on the computer or whatever. You know, he's a great guy, but that shit just pours out of his mouth, you know? And it's like, and then you have people, and especially as you get older and more successful, like people will toot your horn, right? Well, geez, you know, they're probably thinking to themselves, that sounds like a pretty stupid idea, but man, this guy seems to have the golden touch, right? So yeah, sure, Tom, that sounds great, you know? So they just follow. So so you got to figure that out. Okay, so that's sort of how I started. Now I'm going to talk about business planning. You guys mind if I give you the business plan lesson?
Oh, go for it, man.
I actually teach a class in this sometimes and all this stuff. So this is something that's near and dear to my heart. Okay, so a business plan, it's the most valuable thing I've ever created. It's my business plan because things get hectic, you know, as life gets thrown at you and you have a job now or two jobs because I was working at Ford and I was doing this business. So things get hectic and you need to know like what direction to go in. So this is sort of your compass. So the first thing it includes is a business description, right? That seems pretty obvious. But it's more than just like this is, you know, and this is what we do. It also has to cover like not what you do, but how it is different than what other people do. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So, you know, you're the Redford market specialist, right? So you say my business description is I do this with. I don't fully understand how you guys all make your money, so. But I basically look for real estate opportunities in this way. I specialize in Redford because I grew up here, or I have experience in this area. My dad's the city attorney, or you know, I don't know what the hell it is, but that's what's unique about your business. And you're looking for something. It's not always going to be the case, but you're looking for something that you do that adds value to the process. You know, I stick with Redford because I know this, and this. I look for these type of properties, and this is sort of what you do. And you realize, you come to the realization that if you do stick to this description, you've thought it out and you've said, how can I make money? This is how I make money because I know Redford. That the day that someone calls you up and says, I got a property that I want you to look at in Waterford, it's a great deal. You can go back to your business plan and say, wait a second, like all of the advantages of being in Redford that I have, like it saves me money if all my properties are nearby. I can leverage my ability to know the tax assessor. I can leverage this, I can leverage that. I know my brother's on the police force, and if there's a problem at one of my properties, he will do it. You can realize that although that property in Waterford may be 10 grand undervalued, your advantages don't apply. That's not your business, right? For example, there are a lot of things I could sell online, right? A lot of things. Over the years, you know, everybody's got something they want to sell. But over the years, we've always stuck with, has to be really embarrassing, right? If it's not embarrassing, I don't want to deal with it. Because there's just some things, that's what we do. And there's sometimes you have to stick with it. Oh, you guys want to hear about a flop? Yeah. Okay, here's a flop. I got thinking I was cool, right? And our Shop and Private website was selling, it's a combination of ego and bad data. This is what caused this flop in hindsight. Shop and Private was selling a lot of various products, and we would branch out and take that product, which we were trying to sell. Like for example was Rogaine. We were selling a lot of Rogaine because it's embarrassing. It's also a product that's a destination buy, which means men decide to buy it, like they make a decision, and then they go get it. They don't pick it up while they pick up other things. So it was a good online purchase. So we had a section, it was a product page on the Shop and Private website. It was kind of buried in amongst the condoms and all other crap. So we decided we'll make a website that's only about Rogaine, and it's called Rogaine Shop. It's now called Minoxidil Shop because of trademark issues. But so we had this website, and it just sells Rogaine. There's videos on there where we tell you why, we'll tell you how to apply it. You've all seen a specialist website before. It's very specialized, and it works. That methodology works. That's why I run 10 websites. Because sometimes there's a product that people want to research to death. They want good advice. They don't want corporate advice. They want independent advice. And they want to buy it from a friendly person. And they'll pay for it too. Like, we're not cheap. Like, you have to pay a couple bucks extra every time you buy your Rogaine to get it from me. And I don't sell millions of dollars of this stuff, but it pays for itself. So so that was the idea, that we could launch these other websites. Well, we were selling lice shampoos for two reasons. One, head lice is kind of embarrassing, but head lice is the same as pubic crabs. They're the same animal, and it's both hair. So if you get crabs, at one point there was a product. This is an example of a for oily hair only product. There was a product called like Dr. Smith's Pubic Crab Shampoo. And I'm not lying. And we used to sell the crap out of it. We got it from a distributor, and we were pounding through it like, I don't know, not pounding through it, but for our business, which was real small at the time, we were going through like 10 bottles a week, right? So about a little more than one a day. And we get it in from this distributor, and we're the smallest customer they have. They distribute to all the pharmacies in the area. And then they run out, and I say, are you ever going to get more of that stuff in? And they're like, well, we had 96 of them. That's how many they bought 3 years ago. At the beginning of this year, we had 90, and you sold 90 of them. So they're like, they're not coming back. And I said, well, can you try for me? Just start up, I'll buy you lunch or whatever. And the guy goes, okay. So he tried to call the company, and they don't even exist. The product didn't even exist anymore. So he managed to get some from another distribution center that they had dusty on the shelf, and they wanted to sell through us. But the thing was, the stuff inside the bottle was exactly the same as like Rid, which is a head lice shampoo. So anyway, we're selling this head lice. Well, and then when that product went away, we didn't have a pubic crabs product, so it was a little harder to make the sale. So anyway, there was this article. There were articles in the Harvard Medical School did the first ever study on head lice, forever. And they found a few things out, and we liked the data. I like data, so I was reading through it, and I was like, oh, this is really interesting. This is not what the pharmacies are doing. Like the truth of the matter is, the shampoo does very little. The comb does all the stuff. So and then the media was talking about how the lice were getting more and more resistant. We've all heard this term, right? Super lice. Right? It's like the super bacteria. They're getting resistant to the vaccines and the antibiotics, right? How many people here have flesh-eating bacteria? Right? No one, right? Because one person died of it, and they just make a huge story of it. But there was supposedly the head lice down in Miami was resistant to all the shampoos, and it was going to infiltrate. The entire U.S. would just have to accept head lice as a fact of life, everyone. By the year 2012, I'm sure we'd all be infested by it. So anyway, we sort of fell for that. And I started a website, I kid you not, it was called liceshop.com. I'm not joking. I did this. And I spent money to create this website. And it contained all the information from the Harvard study, and it had this great, this new thing where if you had head lice in the home, you could answer a bunch of questions. It was like a virtual flow chart. I mean, they're everywhere now, but this was like new technology then. Like, oh my gosh, my kid has head lice. They have long hair or short, and blah, 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 blah. And it told you, buy this product. But guess what? Nobody wants to buy their head. They tell you what to buy, and then the people would get in their car and drive to the pharmacy so they could get it, right? No one wants to wait 3 days to get their head lice shampoo. So, big flaw when you're shipping stuff out of a warehouse when people have the lice in their head. So it was a giant mistake. And the head lice, obviously, the infestation never happened, right? So it's just one of those things. Yeah, people get head lice. Like my kids, I laugh too, because my kids my kids are 7 and 5, and they went to school, and some kid had head lice, right? And of course the mother said, I hear the head lice are so bad now. I mean, they're really getting impossible to treat. Oh yeah, really? Because about 10 years ago I spent 10 grand to find out that wasn't true. So that's and there was never a business plan for Lice Shop, because I would have got to one of these steps and realized, what's the product I'm offering? Yeah, I'm offering lice shampoo to your door in 3 days, 2 days at the
They'll be bad by then.
Right? Yeah, so no one wants to wait, right? There's who's my competitor? The pharmacy down the street that you could go to this instant. So people visited the website, but they just didn't buy. So it was a mistake. At Shop, and the other thing was, when we put all that information on Shop in private, people would visit the website, get the same information, but at least they kind of got the feeling hey, this website has other stuff. They gave me good advice on lice, and they have this other stuff. So if I'm going, you know, if I need a Valentine's gift or something, I'll come back here. Whereas the light shop thing,
Ironically, your customers sucked you dry, and then that was it.
it's not ironic. It happens all the time, you know. Yeah, oh yeah, it is ironic. Gotcha. The parasitic.
Yeah.
That's right. And losing that money did make me itch.
Yeah.
So there's your description. So I can talk about. Well, how am I doing? I'm gonna keep this moving. So
None of us have lives. Keep going.
oh yeah. So I'm gonna tell you. I have some idea of some companies that do this really well, and some companies that don't do this well. So here's some ideas. I think that I think Nike has a good idea what their product description is. Right? It's athletic stuff. They don't build business suits, right? They briefly got into skateboard shoes. They've tried that a couple of times because it's somewhat athletic, but they mainly stick to the running, basketball, you know, fitness type of thing, and they do a great job of it. Starbucks, of course, right? Ethically sourced coffee, and that's what they're all about, giving back a little bit. Famous Dave's Barbecue, their tagline is, every customer is treated as if they were a guest at one of Dave's famous barbecues. Makes sense, right? And I like Target. Their taglines, expect more, pay less. Really stylish, they don't have everything there, but the stuff is nice. Here's some companies I think do a very bad job of this. Boston Market. I went to Boston University, and I was there when there was one Boston chicken. And it was the best chicken you could imagine. People would line up down the block. You would go in there, and they would be slinging so much food that case where they had all the sides, the food would be all over the inside of the glass and everything, just because they're slinging it so fast, because people loved it. And then somewhere along the line, they decided to call it Boston Market, when in reality, we were all just there for the chicken. And then they never really figured it out. You know, they introduced meatloaf, ham, roast beef, sirloin, which is different than roast beef somehow, and turkey, and all these products. And in reality, that when they introduced all that stuff, they just made it so the chicken was less fresh, you know? And then they also had so they lost their way in the description of what they did. They even changed their name away from what they did best. And they also faced some stiff competition, which was the supermarket chicken. But I mean, so it was, you know, I just think they did a bad job. I always thought Kmart did a bad. If you go to Kmart's website right now, this is what they say their description of their business is. You ready? Kmart, this is their own words in their investor thing, is a mass merchandising retailer that offers customers quality products through a portfolio of exclusive brands. Anyone? They have exclusive brands at Kmart. Can anyone name one?
No.
Jacqueline Smith.
Jacqueline Smith, good. Jacqueline Smith. They don't have Martha Stewart anymore, right? Here they go. Craftsman, right? Guys know Craftsman, but since they're owned by Sears now, right? Right? Kenmore, that sounds like Sears too, right? Die Hard, sound familiar, right? Jacqueline Smith. Here's one no one would have guessed. Joe Boxer. Apparently that's a Kmart brand. I always thought they were Marshalls. You know? Route 66 and Country Living. So that's what Kmart does for living people. Target, you can expect more and pay less. Kmart, you can get a Die Hard and some Joe Boxers. I also don't like Twitter. It's not that I don't like the service. I think the website's really hard. Like, it's not intuitive what you do there. I don't think they've never released like a corporate vision on paper to say this is what we do. I think of it more as like a tool that people use a lot, but I don't know, like what's the next stage for Twitter? Like, I can picture what's next on Facebook. I can't picture what the next thing with Twitter is. All right, so that's like your business description. Let's talk about market analysis. Market analysis, where you understand everything about what's in your market. This is not only your this is what your pricing can be. You guys are the kings of market analysis. I'm not going to tell you that. You know exactly what market analysis is. Your friend, and if you don't know, you pay him $85. He'll give you a brief market analysis from his desktop. Or if you pay $350, you get the full plan, right?
Yep.
This is market analysis. You are the purveyor of the data. And or you can use, you know, there's Zillow and all this other stuff, but you guys know exactly what it is. You have a metric you track. price per square foot, right? Or something like that, plus the neighborhood and the location. In other businesses, they have to work to determine what that means, what the pricing is of everybody else. So you guys get that advantage. Competitive analysis. Okay, now we get a little trickier, right? Maybe you're gonna go to Wayne County auction. You wanna know who you're bidding against, right? You're gonna go to Open County auction, or you're talking to a realtor. One of the questions is, anybody else interested in this house? Right, who hasn't asked that? You wanna know. If someone else is interested, they got an offer on paper, you might wanna jump in and throw an extra couple of grand at it, right? So, but that's your competitive analysis. In my case, when I launched the business, competitive analysis was find the hemorrhoid cream, go to Target, go to Kmart, go to CVS, go to Walmart, go to Walgreens, go every place you can go, write down all their prices. I had a little spreadsheet. So if anyone here go to the pharmacy to buy their toiletries and stuff, stop, because the pricing's crazy. Like any of that stuff, if you can get it at Target, Meijer, Kmart, you'll save at least 20%. It's way cheap. And you won't save a bunch going to shop private.com. We actually decided very early on to have a higher pricing strategy, to be the price of Walgreens, you know. Just, we give privacy, that's what you get. Marketing plan, okay. Real estate, I mean, you have a marketing plan, right? You stick a sign out, you put it on the MLS, you hire a realtor. Is that basically it? But there's other people do some interesting things, right? They post no money down. I have a buddy that was converting apartment buildings into condos, you know, and they had a truck running around, save $30,000 off. Or this is all your marketing plan. You have a certain budget you can pay to acquire and to acquire a customer, sell a house, acquire a renter, you know, get the rent, right? The renters don't show up for free, right? You have to put an ad in the paper or a sign out the door. Something has to happen. And this is your marketing plan, what it's going to be. Do you want to be unique? Is this your significant difference from your business description in how you market your business? Maybe. Like there's this guy, Urbane Apartments. They're in, you guys know this one? They're in Royal Oak, and there's one in Birmingham and things like that. I mean, the guy's kind of bought a few apartment buildings, painted them some cool colors, freshened up the lobbies, and he's calling it Urbane. He's got like this whole marketing plan. He's got this website, a newsletter, he's growing social functions. He's doing all sorts of things that other apartment owners aren't. Are they the right things? I don't know, it's different, right? It's somehow different, it's gonna appeal. He's probably determined that it appeals to, he's growing like a weed, so it's obviously appealing to someone. So it's working in some way. Your marketing plan also involves who your customer is and how you're gonna reach them, right? If you got a property in Detroit, you're not gonna advertise in, you know, Dearborn, if you know, or something like that. You want to stay close, stay local, that type of thing. Don't hire them. Everyone knows what happens when you hire a realtor that's not from you, the area where the house is, right? It doesn't sell because they just don't have access to that customer. Process plan, operations plan. This is like how things are going to work. In my business, it's who makes the website, who takes the picture, who writes the description, who packs the boxes, right? Who takes the orders, who answers the phone, all of that sort of stuff. In your business, it's who do I turn to when the toilet explodes? Who do I hire to put on a roof? Who do I call for an appraisal? Who do I call for my insurance? And if you who here thinks that it's better to have that phone number list before you buy the house, right? That's why you do the business plan ahead of time. Management team and organization. You know, maybe you're a single player, right? Maybe your wife is really good at, you know, decision making, or maybe you're the brains and your husband's really good at mowing tall grass and fixing plumbing and all those other things that add to the bottom line because they make sense, right? I mean, you're talking to a guy who writes the code for anything special on the website because that's the most expensive guy we have to hire. So if I hire someone to replace the toilet for 20 bucks an hour, I can do the work of a programmer for $150 an hour, right? So that's kind of that plan. The financial plan. All right, now this, I imagine in your business is the whole deal, right? I mean, the plan is this, this, and this. And if it's a quick plan, like a quick flip, the financial plan's fairly easy. The money comes from here. I either borrow it, or it's my own, or I leverage it, right, by taking a loan. It goes here. I buy the house, you know. I put X amount of dollars in it. I sit on the house for 3 months while it sells. I pay the realtor, and I get this much back. So that's the nuts and bolts of a financial plan. But there's a second part, and that's the cash flow analysis, right? Does everybody know what kills a business isn't P&L, profit and loss? It's cash flow. So some of the new people here, I'm gonna give you a hypothetical situation, right? So I have $100,000 in the bank. 100,000. Actually, no, I'm sorry. I have $20,000 in the bank. And I have good credit. I can get a mortgage with 10% down. I see a house that's $90,000, and it needs $9,000 worth of work. With $9,000 worth of work, it will be worth $130,000. So, can I buy that house? Can I put $9,000 down, right? Put in the $9,000 payment. I mean, $9,000 in fixing, so I'm $18,000. I had 20, so I got $2,000 left, right? Why can't I buy this house? Right? What's that? Yeah, exactly. I got to pay that mortgage until it sells, right? If I sell it in the first week, I could do it.
Not if you sign a lender that'll hold it till the end.
Yeah, if you're lucky, right? That's not the kind of loan I get for 10% down, is it?
Depends on who. It depends on who you're talking to.
Yeah, well, you guys have good lenders, I guess. But if it's a conventional loan, put a tenant in, then you won't sell it, right?
Sell it with a tenant.
You sell it as a turnkey.
Yeah, then it's a $130,000 house.
Possibly.
Yeah, possibly, but this is the difference between what I'm trying to demonstrate is the difference between a P&L and a cash flow, right? The difference between a P&L and a cash flow situation here is the profit and loss in this house is enormous, $32,000, right? But the cash flow analysis is in month 3, you're shitting the brick. You know, first of all, how long does it take to get the repairs done, and can you get a C of O for the house?
Yeah.
Right? I'm not in Detroit, Jeremy. But then again, you knew that when I said it was a $100,000 house. Sorry.
I said $100.
Yeah, exactly. Jeremy's like, well, I put $90 down, and so, but that's the kind of planning you have to do in advance, right? Because I mean, some people learn these lessons. You guys know these lessons, but somewhere along the way, someone told you how it works, or you learned the hard way, or something. But these are things that if you do these in advance, you think about them in advance, they save you a lot of trouble. And as the businesses get more complex, the cash flow analysis gets more complex. Well, I got 7 employees, but I don't hire this one until month 3, and it gets this whole, I mean, Excel was invented for a reason, right? This is what goes on in these models. But that's part of it, the cash flow analysis. And then the executive summary. All right, I'm gonna ask, seems like a rowdy crowd, but I'll do it anyway. Who here knows why you need an executive summary? All right, give it a shot.
I just have this, because
Yeah.
that may be the only thing the person reads.
That's exactly right, because people with a lot of time on their hands will read your whole business plan. But people with a lot of time on their hands probably aren't the people you want to read your business plan, right? Because anyone who has the ability, sees a lot of business plans, has the ability to invest, has the ability to make you successful, is smart enough to know that they've just got to skim the executive summary. And that's what it does. Because someday you might find yourself in an elevator with Dan Gilbert, right? Or Roger Penske, or who knows who, you know? And you got to be able to blurt it out. This is what we do. I run a company, we find embarrassing products, and we find a way to sell them online. Then if they're interested, they say, oh, you know, I'm not interested in your company. It's okay. I didn't waste your time. We can walk away. If they have further questions, hopefully my other part of the business plan, I can answer them. Oh, really? You know, does that take a lot of investment? Not really, you know, blah, blah, blah. We have to invest. Well, could you buy, or you're interested in buying a house in Waterford? You know? No, that's not really my game, you know? So that's kind of, so business plan, I stick to it. You know, there's a million books on business planning out there, but I think the process is usually boiled down to these 8 sort of steps. And I think that it's always, I'll just say, from my experience, having a business plan always allowed me to guide myself in the right direction because I knew what we were doing. And the closer I stuck to it, it's been 13 years now, the more success we've always seen. So that's, all right, so then, like I said, I told you before, it wasn't my first business plan. but this was the only one that people thought was really a good idea. And then of course I followed up with a lot of hard work. You probably, I don't think that's a surprise. People don't give you stuff in this world. And my personal mantra is that every day I move forward. Like every day I'm at work, I won't leave until something new has happened. Something new that's supposed to make more money has occurred. I have done. It's not. I won't go in, pack a few boxes, and leave. If I'm on vacation, I'm on vacation. But I'm just not satisfied with putting out a fire here or a fire here and then just going home. That's the one thing in life that makes me absolutely miserable. And I really don't have to do it. I've tried to work the environment so these things don't happen. It's also, I don't hire people that are very dramatic. They have to go. They just don't. What's that?
How do you find those?
Yeah, people come to my company. Someone said like, how do you people? They're so much fun. And I say, yeah, because I fire them if they're not. And it's true. Like you've got to go. It's just not working out. See ya. You need to. So, all right. That's not politically correct, but when you sell plastic dicks for a living, you can get away with it. All right, here's another tip. This one might come out of you from left field, but I'm in this entrepreneurs group, and we learn like personal growth and that sort of thing. Done a lot of that kind of crap, and some of it works and some of it doesn't. But this is the most valuable one I've ever had. I took this thing called a Colby test. You do it at Colby.com. I wrote it in the note. It taught me how I work best. They can explain it better than I can, but it's not woo-woo. They ask you like 36 questions. You answer the 36 questions. They take that information and then tell you something that sounds amazingly revolutionary. But in reality, but like you told them, they just happen to like be the one person in the world that will stop you, ask these questions that are very important to how you like to work, and then they would tell you that. And they'll tell you like, do you like to start projects right away? Or they rank you. They rank 4 categories. Quick start, which is how much get up and go right away you have. Jeremy is a high quick start. He likes to start new projects all the time. Then they have fact finder, which is how much research you like to do, how much you like to tear into the information, how many high fact finder sits on the toilet and reads the MLS, right? That's a high fact finder. Someone who analyzes the map, all of that sort of stuff, good fact finder. Then there is follow through. These are someone that always finishes tasks. Everything, all the I's dotted, all the T's crossed. And then the last thing there is your physical, like how much you like to physically work versus mentally work. Can you sit and envision it all, or do you have to go pound nails at the end of the day? And there's no right or wrong way here. Some people are good at one thing, some people are good at another. And this test determines that. The right or wrong is if you're someone who likes to dot the I's and cross the T's, right? You don't want to be in a job where you're required to do a high volume of sloppy work, right? If you're someone who likes to start new projects, you don't want to work on an assembly line where you do the same thing perfectly for years on end, right? So this is a test that tells you what your natural behavior would be, and once you learn that, you can, once I learned it, my natural behavior, I'm trying to talk to my own experience, once I learned it and learned what I could and couldn't do well or easily, I mean, you can do them all. I think everybody's smart can dot the I's and cross the T's, but man, it's a pain, and it really takes a lot of effort, a lot of stress, really is the right word. Once you realize that, then you can get yourself away from the tasks that you're not going to be good at, that you're not naturally able to do, and you can look for people that are naturally have that ability. I have no follow through. This is my weakness. I have a high fact finder, high quick start. I'm in the middle between mental work and physical work, but I have no follow through. So when I hire an assistant, this person has to have an amazingly high follow through because their job is basically to follow me around and fix everything. Right? Well, and if they can't do it themselves, go, hey, come on back here. You know, this is left. What should I do? And so that's the way my company works. We test people in this. But it was a revelation for me. I didn't take this test till I was probably 35, and I had no idea. You know, I had no idea that I didn't have follow through. None. I was never. I was a very intelligent student. I went to college and finished in 3 years. Like you would think, wow, that guy's a good student. I had a 3.2 GPA though, so I never got straight A's. I just wanted to do more work. Like, get me the hell out of here. Give me more. And other people would like take 5 years, but they get a straight A's. So it's just different. It never dawned on me that this is part of me. It's not going to change. So this Kobe thing, I think, if you're finding that there's a lot of stress in what you do, maybe you feel like you don't fit into your job, or something isn't working right, or you're doing tasks you don't like, you know, it's like $60. You take it online and they give you this report. You can pay like another, it's pretty reasonable. You take it, but then again, it's just answering a bunch of questions. You can spend like another $15 and they'll give you like what careers are best for you. Or if you have a high school kid and they don't know what they want to do with their lives, they can take this test and they have like a career guidance part of it. If you really want to be like Joe Executive, like me and my buddies, you can hire a Kobe consultant for like $500 an hour and they'll come out to your group and tell you what you're doing wrong, you know. But it's amazing. I mean, it changed my life. And then my final tip, I think I covered earlier. Always speak from experience. I'm a sharer. I like to talk. Big surprise. And but when people have these business ideas, since I worked in business planning, I preach business planning when I get a chance, not very often. But if anyone that I know is ever thinking of doing a new business, they always get invited over for dinner, and then they get grilled in my office, like, dude, we're putting together your business plan. You've got to cover these 8 steps before you spend any money. And so I've always shared the information. Like I've always said, like when we started, our margins were 35% on pharmaceutical products and 55% on adult products. Now that's a piece of information that people don't like to tell you about their business, you know. I'll tell you what I paid for my house. I'll tell you what I paid for my car. It's not offensive to me if you ask. I'm just that guy. But that guy gets something back. Like when I share information, it causes other people to share information too. And the problem, so that's great. But it's like your friends, like you're going to drive your 30 friends by a couple of houses. Some of them, they have a loose term for information, right? Like their information may not be true. And that becomes a problem, right? So you have to, like I like to share and I like to get back. And then it's very obvious when people aren't telling you the truth or avoiding the truth. So my experience is I like to share information. I'll tell you numbers, figures, how we do business. And in the last 13 years of business, I've probably only burned by like 5 people. Never a big burn over that. But the amount of help I've gotten from friends, associates, family, just even people you'd never know had some connection or idea to your company or what you're doing is amazing. I mean, but it all has to start with, you know, some hard truth. And people want to hear about failures. You guys, as much as you will remember Shopping Private or Libraries.com, you'll remember Life Shop as well. And it's what makes someone, you know, real. It gives that person dimension. So I know you guys are, I've seen some YouTube videos you guys are out there talking about, and I'm sure that you want to look good for investors, right? I imagine that's the goal. What's the goal of a YouTube video? What did you make it for? You make them too, right? What's the goal? Why did you do it?
Just share, calling you on the phone.
To get people
asking you
calling.
questions, asking you about what
Yeah,
investing.
to get leads and investors, right? Yeah. And I know this sounds really counterintuitive, but people who invest money aren't dumb, right? I mean, think of who your investors. These are not fools. They know that not everything is going perfectly. And they probably also think that someone who only talks about victories has not enough knowledge to know defeat, right? You're smiling. Like, you know, when someone says, you know, like we used to go into this, I'm in this business, entrepreneurs organization. It's all about truth, truth, truth. And when you leave that bubble and you go out and you say things to people and you'll see someone on the street, hey, how's business? Oh, it's good. It's good. You know? Business is good. It's good. It's good. It's good. Business is good. Business is good. And then a week later, they're filed for bankruptcy. It's like, well, business wasn't good. You just didn't want a week. Yeah, that must have been one hell of a week, right? And without that dimension, like, what good is that person to me? They're never going to offer anything to me. That closes me down. And before you know it, there's really nothing we can share. I mean, if you're competing against one another, if you're the Redford market expert, but you're the Redford market expert, then I can understand. But if you're the Redford market expert, you're the Detroit market expert, you're the Pontiac market expert, you know, you guys should be going to lunch once in a while. And if you're making YouTube videos and you think that your investors are going to be sitting at home thinking, this guy's a genius. Every video is about how much money he's making this month. I got to write a check, you know? Nobody thinks that. In the same video you're going to talk about a success, you have to add dimension to it. It has to be broad. Or the same website or the same thing like that. Every time the mower gang comes up, which is this volunteer group I do, you know, you have to say, like, it's hard work. Like, we run this group, it's fun, sorta. We put our lawnmowers in the back of our trucks and we go down to an abandoned playground in Detroit and we mow it. Does that sound like fun? Like, it's work. Like, we're working, right? But for some reason, if you're honest with people, they'll show up. Like, people will write, it's all through Facebook, so they'll say, I don't have a mower, what can I do? I'll say, well, we have a spare weed whacker. And then I say, if you're the first one down, you can use it. If you're the second one down, you got to pick up trash. People will show up and they'll pick up trash. And you know, that's a shit job. But if you're honest, they'll do it. If I said I got 5 lawn tractors and they show up and I had 1, and then I gave them all trash bags, yeah, that gang wouldn't be. There'd be a gang, all right. So there's this honesty piece, and you know, not to get all woo-woo about you, but it starts with you. You have to start it yourself, and you have to share. And yeah, some people will try to burn you with it or something, or they're just not able. It's not that they want to burn you. It's just some people just have no connection with the truth, and they just can't process it as such. So, but my advice is stick with it because it's easy to remember what really happened. So, thank you for your time.
Question.
Where's your office located?
Troy. We used to be in Hazel Park. We've always been a low rent, you know, because we sell plastic dicks out of a warehouse. So we started out in my spare bedroom, and I lived in Ferndale at the time. Then we moved to the back of an upholstery fabric company that was shrinking. The guy was a drunk, so his business got smaller and smaller every few months. And so we grew as he shrunk, and that worked out. Then my wife and I bought a building in Hazel Park in like 2006. That was a good investment. And we still own it because, you know, it's unsaleable. And but we have a tenant in place, pays the mortgage, not the taxes. And then I bought the building we're in Troy at an auction, which my one real estate victory.
All right.
They auctioned it off the week after Chrysler declared bankruptcy and the week before GM did. And I was there. And there were 2 other guys there. One guy wanted, it's 14,000 square feet in Troy. It's a nice building built in the 70s, so it's nice. Big place. One guy was going to buy it to store his classic cars in. It's like, what? like the Somerset collection's like in the back of the industrial park. You're going to store your cars here? And the other guy walked in like 2 minutes before the auction and tried to, you know, he just showed up in case no one else was there. It was, I paid $13 a foot for it.
Wow.
Yeah. It's a bright time.
How'd you find out about that?
I had looked at the building a year and a half prior, and I didn't want to buy that building. I hated it, actually. I didn't like the layout. And I wanted to buy another building, which we actually put an offer in on, but it was below what they owed the bank, and the bank wouldn't short sale it. And my wife told me, this is the wrong time to buy. My wife's really smart. This is the wrong time to buy. Hire an intern or something, pack yourselves into the current building, make it last another year. She was dead nuts on it. I mean, market crashed, and then I got a postcard in the mail because I had seen the building, and I went and looked at it. It was fun. I got to talking to the security guy, and he made a checklist on how many people had walked in and all that. So like, you do those things. Sure.
Do you warehouse your items or do you
Yeah.
drop ship?
No, we don't drop ship anything. The world's most private company doesn't share your personal information. Everything's shipped by us.
Oh.
Yeah.
So are you afraid like some rogue employee would like disclose information?
We don't have a lot of turnover, so no, not really. Not really. I mean, doesn't keep me awake at night, that's for sure. Everybody has a login to get the info. We talk like, every once in a while you'll see someone like this famous person's name go by. Do you know what's a famous person? I don't know. You know? I mean, you know, how many Clive Davises are there? You know, I don't know. I'm trying to think of a name that's like famous, you know? Like,
Jeremy
B.
Burgess?
Spears.
I'll say anything about that.
Like B. Spears, right? And then it's sent somewhere in California. So, and it used to be like someone would say, "Oh, maybe it's Britney Spears." And I'd say, "Well, maybe you should shut your mouth." So, and my warehouse manager the same thing. So we just don't. Mostly, you just don't even look at it. We never really handle the information. Like, you type, you know, there's a form online. You type your address in there. So we never even. It's never even looked at, really. I mean, we stick a label on the outside of the box and scan a barcode, but we never retype your address. That's why it's funny when people mistype their address, and then they call up angry. They're like, well, you screwed up my address. It's like, listen, it went right from where you typed it in to that label printer, you know? And let's face it, I didn't type in the town you used to live in. No, sure.
So you mentioned that you paid $65,000 for
Oh,
one
Bachelorette.com, yeah,
and $1 million for
64,000.
the other one. What exactly are you paying for? And like sites like GoDaddy and stuff to buy a domain name, do you recommend them? And second question
Okay.
is advertising. How do you get people to come to your site? And do you have anybody advertising on your site?
Okay, all right, good questions, good questions. What do you get when you pay $64,000 for a domain name? You get the name, that's it. It is a shell.
That was
When
the
I-
deal, though.
That's the deal, yeah.
No,
that's
that
the
was a deal. You got it.
That was a deal?
Early days.
At the time, it was early days, yeah.
Yeah. You probably flipped that. For
That was a
while.
good sell, too. We did a good sell job on that because the guy owned Bachelor.com and Bachelorette.com. And he also ran Cigars.com. So we convinced him that our business was all about women. His business was all about men. So if he sold us this name, we'd do a really good job with it. And that would make his male equivalent site worth more. And actually, he did end up selling Bachelor.com a couple years later for $200,000. So it did end up being sort of true, but no one's ever run a successful business at that website. It's been 10 years now. Whereas the women, guys don't buy stuff at bachelor parties. So that's what you get. You're buying the name.
You
It's like
get like everything that they have.
they didn't have anything.
Oh.
It's like buying a vacant lot on a corner. And the better the domain name, the busier the street. The more traffic driving by, the more shoppers walking on the sidewalk.
Well, you moved your stuff from bachelorette parties to bachelorette.
No, we actually run both websites still concurrently. Yeah, we compete against ourselves.
Right.
It's same
That's
shit.
what I like.
Okay, so GoDaddy. I use GoDaddy. When I buy a domain name, I buy it on GoDaddy. I don't go to second tier websites because one time I did this and I went to some weird website and I typed in tomnardone.com and to see if it was available, and it wasn't. But I didn't buy it. And the next day, I decided I was going to buy it, and I went to buy it, and someone had bought it. And I know who bought it. The guy who owned the website that I typed in tomnardone.com in bought it. And then he tried to sell it to me. So I was like, oh, I'm not going to I'm not doing domain name searches anywhere except, and I use GoDaddy, but yeah, except the big ones, because that's a good business model, isn't it? Pretend you have a domain name search, advertise it on Google, first person who clicks, every time they click, then at the end of the day you look at them and go, well that one's sort of gibberish, but this one here, you know, bicyclepumps.com, that's pretty good, I'll buy it, and then find it, and then, you know, tomorrow when he comes on, you know, to look for it, I'll have it up for auction for $500. So I stick with GoDaddy. Next question was too hard to answer, but it's how do you get people to your website? That's the marketing plan of the business plan. I mean, it's so complex, and there's so many avenues. There's so many ways we advertise and things we advertise on. It's an entire career's worth of knowledge in that thing. But the only thing I can tell you is we have a goal, an overall goal, and our goal is to acquire an average customer for 15% of the sale. And if we can do that, we can go up to 20 depending on the website. Like vibrators.com stuff's a little more profitable and the people repeat buy more, so it gets 20% of the sale as a marketing budget. But if you can't, and this is what makes a website $1 million a year versus 1.5 million versus 500,000. Because you spend that percentage of sales on a day, month, week basis, and if sales grow, you have more the next week to spend. And if sales don't, because the next person, like you get some customers for free, or because you paid $1 million for a domain name. And the next customers you can get for $1 a piece because they're really interested in you. Then the next you have to convince a little harder. And the next a little harder. And then at some point, the people are costing you more money than you're ever going to make off of them. And that's why the .com bubble happened, because they were just throwing offers at people that would never, ever in a million years make sense. Pets.com, you could order a 50-pound bag of food, dog food, for what the same it costs at the supermarket, and they would ship it to your house for free. How much does it cost to ship a 50-pound bag of dog food? I don't know, 35 bucks, right? You paid $21.99 for the bag of dog food, and they spent 35 just to ship it. That's not like, you don't make money on volume there, you know? So there's just a certain point we have to figure out what the offers are and all of that. It's 13 years worth of science right there.
What about advertising on your site?
No. Now, people always ask, and I say, when Amazon puts ads on their site, I'll put ads on mine.
Yeah.
It's just not acceptable. It doesn't look professional. If it was a site, not a store, like you would never see an ad on vibrators.com.
Right.
Like, where would we want them to go? We want them to go somewhere into the shopping cart to buy something. That's my job. So they don't, yeah.
So do you have repeat customers? Because it doesn't sound like you
Yeah.
upsell that.
Well, we cross-sell and upsell, but we don't repeat sell. So we don't email and we don't send catalogs. My opinion on those technologies are, well, my initial opinion was people would just completely rebel against them and it all come beating a path to my door. I never predicted spam filters would exist, like back in the day. I knew that it was a problem and I knew that people wouldn't want to get, these emails, but I didn't understand. I never thought, wow, like I wish I had invented the spam filter. I was thinking about spam all the time and how terrible it was, and I wanted to fight against it. And that would have been one more way to be the world's most private company, like we keep you from spam. So I never predicted that would happen, but I knew people wouldn't like it. I knew initially, like even when the internet was new, you got junk email. So I knew that was the enemy. So I knew that people would prefer not to. And not everybody responds to the email newsletters, It's not 100%. Like if you look at drugstore.com's annual report, they get like 15% of their sales from the newsletter. So we don't have that. So we're losing out on 15%. So we got to make it up in price or lower volume.
What's your best source of traffic?
Well, organic search, you know what that means? That means just people typing in something. But but that's kind of a simplification that doesn't make any sense, like people typing in what we do. But the reality is the way to get organic search is to have really good content. So you have to have really good information about what the people are looking for. So bachelorette.com has to have great guides on how to throw a bachelorette party. All sorts of tips, recipes, free books that you can download that have recipes in them. Free games that you can download, bingo cards, print them out and give them to your friends. All sorts of stuff like that don't cost you anything except the creation side of it. Shopping Private's got to have answers to embarrassing questions. The number one information page on the website is, why does my butt itch? And then,
What's the answer?
no, you have to ask me the question first. You have to say, yeah. You have to tell me. You have to ask me a specific question. Why does your butt itch, or what is my butt itch? So that type of page, like the fact that we have this page, and the reason it's the number one page is because, there's probably 100 websites out there that have like how to get rid of a zit, right? But Shopping Private is the only one that has, why does my butt itch? So there aren't as many people asking the question, but the ratio of number of people asking the question to the number of websites that answer it is high. So we do well. So good content, and then we have people on staff that do nothing but content generation. So
Well,
we
you
have one
wax
person.
your own back and hide.
Yeah, Jeremy's seen the
Yeah.
videos. Yeah,
Keep an eye on you.
yeah.
I watch all of you.
Yeah, how to remove hair. Yeah, I have a series of videos on how to remove hair from your own back. 3 methods.
Do you guys take phone calls like customer service?
We do have a phone call line. It's open 9 to 5, not 24 hours. It is not popular. As popular as our business is, nobody wants to call.
I don't know why.
It's
Maybe the big.
it's popular among weirdos. And the guy who staffs it, I'll just quick anecdote. The guy who staffs it is a former professional wrestler, amateur professional wrestler, and he worked for 17 years at a record store in East Point called Hot Hits. It's an independent record store, and it's specialized in the Insane Clown Posse. Does anyone know who this is? All right, so the Insane Clown Posse, if you haven't heard, is a rap group that likes to talk about like killing their mom.
Yeah.
And their target audience are like the yeah, they're called juggalos. They have a name for themselves. They're called juggalos. And a way to, I hope there's no juggalos in the audience, but a way to describe them is they are the rejects. Like this is a group that they welcome rejects of any kind. If you're, you know, short, tall, 2 legs, 1 leg, 3 legs, overweight, underweight, alien, outcast in any way, you're welcome as a juggalo. And this guy spent 17 years behind the counter dealing with these guys and girls. The shop, and you can imagine that they're not exactly, they like to shoplift, and you know, if they're willing to listen to songs about killing their mom, you can imagine what their ethics are in store. So I was like, oh, this guy, he's gonna be perfect to answer the phones here. He can deal with all of the. He's really good at it too. Like once in a while, morning radio will call. Like, oh, let's do a prank call, right? Oh, it's the best. It's my favorite moment in the whole company because he has the best response. Because they'll be like, you can tell, you know, you can tell when they're 13, right? And you can tell when they're a DJ because the DJ, like, he makes sure there's a pause before he talks, like, so they get it on tape, you know. And then they'll say like, hi, I'm looking for advice on buying a vibrator, and you know, the guy will say like, oh yeah, sure. Any particular questions you have? Like he's polite at first, right? And they'll say like, oh, how about one that I can, you know, I don't know, stick in my ear, you know, or something like that. And he'll go like, so, what's the response here, right? The response, I would get angry. I'd be like, screw you, buddy. And but he realizes who they are and exactly what they don't want to hear. And he'll say, is that what you've got this morning for me? Like that's your comedy routine? Like one I can stick in my ear? That's what you got. You woke up this morning for your radio show and you said, I'm gonna ask a guy at vibrators.com which one I can stick in my ear. And you know that they're taping this. And all the people in the control room are going, oh, we're never going to be able to use this. You know? So then they're all scrambling like, what the hell do we do this morning for our radio show? And this one guy has just totally diffused their whole morning. I love it. I just love it to death. It's so fun. But in all calmly and politely, you know? It's brilliant. He's got a special skill. So, and
it's something.
How do you pick your products? I mean, do you,
I go to trade shows, we look, we keep our ear to the ground, anything embarrassing. The vibrators businesses, we get very technical in. We have sound measurement equipment, vibration measurement equipment, so we want things that vibrate really strongly and are very quiet. I mean, we're really scientific about it. Bachelorette party stuff. Yeah, I know. And the bachelorette party, the brand position on vibrators.com is, there's like 17,000 sex toys out there. The selection is unbelievable. And some of our competitors, the less refined ones, will literally advertise, they'll say like sextoys.com, over 17,000 products. I mean, is that an advantage? So what we try to do on our business is we get to know everybody, we know the materials, we know all this stuff, and we whittle it down to find like the perfect one of this, the perfect one of this, the perfect one of this. And so our brand position is the easiest way to find the perfect vibrator. So it's sort of already chosen, half chosen. So we have like 350 items, which is like the lowest among all of the big websites. So we're looking for professional women who want to avoid embarrassment. They don't want to be caught poking around on this website. They want to get in, get out. I remember that.
Oddly, me too.
Yeah, it's, you know what's funny? I tell you, you guys ready for a little sex industry humor? This is a good one. I have a friend who works at a company in San Francisco, Facebook friend, and I see him at trade shows, and he says, "What an awful day of work." He posts on Facebook. "What an awful day of work. All I did was switch from one application to another on the two computer screens. Switch back and forth from one application to another on two computer screens all day long." So of course I post, and he goes, no, and then he says like the life of a dildo salesman. So then I post on there, like, I'm surprised back and forth. I thought you guys would go in and out. I said, but what do I know? I just sell vibrators. I just hover about all day. I was real proud of that. So,
I got one last.
sure.
How do people with websites like ask.com, how do they make
Not the
money?
other, yeah.
Say what they
Ask.com.
How do they make money?
That's not, there's different models on the web. That's an advertising-based model. So they answer questions, they provide like the content we talked about, so they get their search traffic for free. And then they hope that people click those ads on the side. Or some of the big brands pay just to show the ad. Yeah. So. Yeah. Yeah, it can be anywhere. There's this measure in advertising called CPM, this cost per, and the M's the Roman numeral for 1,000. So they pay a cost per 1,000 times that ad's shown. And depending on the website, it can run up to $30 CPM. So what's that, 0.3 cents per person? But that would have to be like a very specific website, like a website about shopping for a car or something like that would be $30. And then it goes down, 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 down. We don't buy on a CPM basis, we only buy on a performance basis, which means we only pay when they click the ad through to our website. And so we'll pay, you know, it depends on the website, it can be 0 to, you know, something is totally unrelated, and some guy puts a website and says, click this link to vibrators.com so I make some money, you know, like you don't get anything. Your website's about turtles, you know. So you're just trying to trick visitors into, you know, getting you to click. But in general, it runs about, for that type of advertising, 5 cents a click or something. And it depends on the website's traffic. You can track it all. What's that? Yeah, we're big affiliate marketers. Yeah, we like to partner with affiliates. Affiliates are people that have a website, they carry an ad, and then they get paid when you click the ad, it tracks you through, and they get paid as a percentage of sales. Bachelorette.com has a very strong affiliate program, because there's a lot of people out there that have wedding sites and that sort of stuff, sites about their wedding, and they're looking for just a little bit of money. And the affiliate programs are all, someone monitors, there's like a go-between. This is another business model on the internet. There's go-betweens. They're basically the people who keep everybody honest. And the affiliate networks, when you click one of those links, it actually sends you to the network and then right to our website. You never know it. But the network puts a cookie, it's called, in your browser. And then when you buy, it goes back to the network, and the network then pays each advertiser, you know, whenever they sell. So, well, like, Bachelorette.com has like 8,000 affiliates, of which I've never, like, maybe I've met like 5. And of the 8,000, probably, certainly less than 1,000 have ever made a sale. And actually, of the 8,000, probably less than 2,000 have ever sent a click. And we don't even know how many have ever served an ad. Like, they sign up, but then they sign up for hundreds of them. It's kind of one of those get-rich-quick schemes that gets posted around the internet. Oh, just create a website and sign up as an affiliate, and you'll be wealthy next month. You know, it just doesn't. Some people do well with it, though.
Is that like commission junction?
Yeah, that's one of them. Yep, commission. Yeah, I'm going Sunday. I leave for the affiliate summit, which is like the big trade show. I hand out business cards, shake hands, kiss babies, whatever you like.
Kids babies.
Yeah, it's a good. Some of them are really professional. They have. Some of them are like real estate investors. They have 1,000 websites, you know, that they keep up to date. They have a staff of people that do it. Others are just, you know, looking for a way to make a little side money. That's what-
All right, last question, Dave.
Yeah.
Ed,
No,
what's
I'm
your-
okay. No, okay.
All right, everybody give Tom a big round of applause.
Thanks, everybody.